It pains me to say this, but Team Liquid will not be at the first ever CS2 major. In a battle for the final spot at the American RMRs, they unceremoniously fell to Complexity. But the question is, how did two of the best teams there end up facing off against each other in a sudden death? And did they kind of get screwed over?
Before we talk about today's story, I just wanted to let you all know that we have been working on something big. We've made a massive documentary about CSGO to bid farewell to one of the greatest games in esports history by celebrating its most iconic moments. And this project would not have been possible without Be Quiet, the sponsor that helped us tackle something this epic. These guys have some of the quietest and most stylish hardware in the game. Check it all out at Be Quiet's Amazon brand store in the description. The most iconic moments in CSGO history drops this Friday, March 8th, and we are beyond excited for you all to see it. Now let's get back to today's video.
All right, last night during the fight for the final spot at the Copenhagen Major, we were in a tough spot. Depending on who won, it would be the first major in CS history without either Canadians or Americans. But you know who will be there no matter what? 20 Brazilians, including Fallen and goddamn Coldzera. It truly is a wild time, but I still find myself conflicted. On one hand, I love to see a bunch of Brazilian teams make it through, especially if we're getting to see some vintage performances from these veterans. But at the same time, the lack of actual NA representation is a tough pill to swallow since we've been struggling for so many years now, which is why it made this Liquid versus Complexity match so hard to watch. Things kicked off on Liquid's pick, Inferno, and it was super back and forth, but TL managed to clutch it out with some pretty solid performances all around.
Yeah, 4v3, and he goes for the information play. Cadian is the only one on B, and all three are coming towards him. First is his, and he's under pressure, still able to get away, but nowhere to go, but it doesn't matter for Cadian. The flick onto Floppy is perfection, and Holzak looking for him, but Cadian, he takes the fight straight to him.
Unfortunately, from there, everything would go downhill. Despite the first half of Anubis ending fairly even, Liquid didn't really look like they were playing as a unit. They failed to record a single round on CT, and for the decider map Overpass, they started things off going 0-7.
10 seconds, you gotta get in there, you gotta plant the bomb. Is it still difficult? Almost like locking them out. JT completely denying anything, even though they're not getting the kills.
Twists and Naf tried their best to claw back some rounds, but the lead just ended up being too much to overcome, especially when Cadian was just falling apart and Skulls looked lost. So Elige and Grim defeat their former team and secure the last spot for Copenhagen, while Cadian will be missing out on what he says is likely the first and only major in his home country.
He's recovered an AK, and he might be what ends it, but Holzak's firing that first shot, looking for the second, and Holzak continues his reign of dominance. Elige with the killing blow, and Complexity are going to Copenhagen.
It's Jason Lake's Juggernaut taking down the European Pegasus of Liquid.
Yeah, this shit sucks. But if you're wondering how these two teams, out of all of them, ended up in this situation, you wouldn't be the only one. In fact, TL going home was just the start of a brewing shitstorm surrounding the format of the American RMR, with Cadian adding fuel to the fire by having this to say during his loser's exit.
I mean, I think no disrespect to Furia and Complexity, but I do think that if you can't beat either of those, you're not going to be doing much damage at the major anyways. However, of course, the format is... how to phrase it, the format is not optimal, you know, like it doesn't make any sense that if you lose one best of one, you're instantly in the elimination. I think there should be better ways of finding the best teams, because I'm not sure we have the 5 best teams going on from the Americas RMR.
Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Wouldn't the 5 best teams just be the 5 teams that won? And the answer is yes, but also kind of no. You see, this is a conversation that comes around every single time we reach an RMR. A team that's arguably better than others gets upset and misses out at a major, and they end up pointing to the format as the culprit of their misfortune. And while it is easy to say, just win your matches, if you want to be the best, you gotta take whatever comes your way, it is a bit more complicated than that, now more than ever. Now, the first and most obvious problem with these RMRs is the best of one format. This is 2 teams going head to head on just a single map to determine the outcome, with best of threes only being reserved for elimination matches. For obvious reasons, this is insanely unforgiving. If an on-paper better team ends up facing off against a lesser-known team that they don't have a lot of experience playing, the chance of an upset has increased tenfold because it's just one map. There's no opportunity for retaliation, and even knowing that could ruin a team's mental, which is why we've seen this happen time and time again. To make matters worse, with this RMR, even losing just one best of one could send you into elimination mode. And this is exactly what happened with Team Liquid. They lost one best of one against Furia and were immediately on the ropes. This brings us to the other issue people had with this RMR, which is the seeding and rankings. In case you missed it, last year Valve updated both their seeding rules for majors and the way regional rankings are calculated. Previously, seeding worked like this. The first ranked team would face off against the last, or 16th, and the second would face the 15th, so on and so forth. But those days are now long gone, and the first seed team now faces the 9th seed team, with the 8th seed team facing the 16th. Now this means that better teams technically could face off against each other earlier than people would have expected, and mid to lesser teams could have an easier ride. It also doesn't help that Valve went and changed how ranks are decided. LAN outcomes matter more, there's less rank decay, and more matches can add to a team's overall rank. But this would actually be all fine and dandy if Valve regularly updated their ranking systems, because before the results of last night, it was 3 damn months ago. Now, the actual benefit to changing to this new seeding system is that it could lead to better matchups later on in tournaments, but since that clearly didn't happen here, in the eyes of NA fans, people are still upset. Listen, I know I said earlier that it's a lot more complicated than this sentiment, and it is, but underneath all this bullshit, you still have the game in front of you, and you have to win it, which Liquid didn't. As a result, does this mean that teams that stand no chance at actually winning the major are going to be there? Absolutely. But if they couldn't beat Furia, and they couldn't beat Complexity, maybe their chances at the major weren't much higher. Hey, guess what, Matt? You know, I said, it's gonna be the first major without any Canadians, but that's not true, because we're gonna be there. Even though you're only kind of Canadian.